Welcome to Radiant Guidance. Today I'm discussing Moon square Mercury in the natal chart. And there's a quote I wanted to read before starting, and that is, "The heart has its reasons, of which reason knows nothing." This is by Blaise Pascal. He was an Enlightenment thinker, and I think it speaks a lot to the essence of this particular challenging aspect in astrology of the moon square Mercury. So when we have a square, it's a 90-degree angle between two planets, two areas of consciousness. And so it's an area where the person might experience conflict between two modes of being. And ultimately, we have these pattern maps so that we can bring it to awareness and unify this conflict within ourselves. Otherwise, it can really express as obstacles or challenges in life. This one in particular can bring a lot of obstacles around decision making and in relating and expressing one's feelings, because we have a planet that represents emotions and innate instincts in conflict with the mind and reason and intellect. And so one of the ways this can come about, I think, is because the moon does represent mother and nurturance. It could be that in childhood, the person didn't experience the ability to express themselves. That might have been blocked by the mother figure. There could have been a fear around expressing one's feelings or rejection around that. And so ultimately, integration can happen through certain types of practices where we strengthen that connection. In Vedic astrology, they consider the moon and Mercury to be enemy planets because in mythology, I believe Mercury is like the lesser son of the moon, sun son. So they're enemies. It's like we could say Mercury is the lower faculty of the moon, if that makes sense. And like that quote says, it's as though there's like another quote that comes to mind, that the heart should always be in service to the mind and not vice versa. But really, this aspect just speaks to the two are on totally different pages a lot of the time. And so some of the practices I'll share are just some ideas for how to bring coherence. So there's actually an institute in, I think it's Santa Cruz, called the Heart Map Institute, and they've done a lot of mapping of the electromagnetics of the heart and how it connects with neurology. And they've shown that we actually attune heart to heart with people. Like our electromagnetic fields of our hearts can link up with other people's hearts fields, and our minds can attune to people's hearts both ways. And in medical and health understandings, we know that thoughts greatly impact heart health. So stressful thoughts, people who have a lot of stressful thoughts are at higher risk for cardiovascular issues. And so it's really helpful to have some of these practices handy, especially if you have this natal aspect, so that you can come into more harmony between what you're feeling and what you're thinking. So one idea is to have a meditative, contemplative journaling practice where you can free write and express your emotions in a safe place where you don't add any judgment to it. So when you're free writing, you're literally just taking your pen to the paper and writing what comes up for you. And you might reflect on it later, but try to reflect on it in a very non-judgmental way, or a way where you rationalize what you're feeling. Just observe what came up and have loving compassion for that. The other idea is, I think working with music is really helpful for this aspect, because music is a beautiful integration of ideas and thoughts with emotion, right? Like we might have something we want to express, but in music we're creating it with this beautiful melody and aspect of expression that is very mercurial, in that it's mental to create a piece of music, but then when you appreciate it, you're really just feeling it, right? You're just feeling it in your body. And so either by listening to music or making your own music, you're practicing integrating your heart with your mind. And then the last idea that I have is actually an authentic relating activity that I did recently with a friend. And you can do it with any type of partner, but you definitely need another person. And you could ask these questions to yourself and maybe write it out or record what comes up. But the key is to ask the same question 3 different times and actively listen to the person, but you're asking the question to 3 different areas. So you might ask the question, how are you feeling? And first you ask it to the person's physical body. How are you feeling? And then the person can sit with their body and not explain, say or describe the sensations. So the focus is words that are sensations that are present in their body at that moment. So it might be tingly, light, warm, words like that. Then you would ask, how are you feeling? But you're asking to their thoughts, to their intellect, to their brain. How are you feeling? And then the person might use words like receptive, contemplative, questioning, that kind of thing. And then finally, you're going to ask, how are you feeling? And you ask it to the emotions. And then the person can answer speaking to the emotions. And that might sound something like peaceful, confused, regretful. So thinking of words that really speak to that emotional part. And so by doing an activity like this, you're taking the time to really parse out what's existing as a sensation, what's existing as a idea or concept, and what's existing as an emotional state of being. And by separating them, we're actually taking the time to really check in with each of those areas instead of just saying, oh, well, I'm just confused or I'm feeling sad, and not really parsing out like where exactly is it coming from. Sometimes um, we might be quicker to explain something through our minds than to really just like sit with where it's coming up in our body. And this can be really useful, especially for releasing different traumas within our system, because we're actually taking the time to like locate where or how it's appearing in the body in a physical way. So I hope that these ideas are helpful. If you have Moon Square Mercury in your natal chart, I'd love to hear your insight into how this has manifested for you, how you work with it, practices that you might have for coming into greater coherence with the mind and the thoughts. Thanks for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.